All right, so now we get to go and actually take a picture. So I'll quickly set up the scenario on my settings on my camera. As a general rule, I'm going to probably want to keep my camera f-stop around f8. That, even though I don't need a lot of depth of field, that's going to give me enough to say if I have a sunflower or something that's about that high off the ground, I'm getting close to the subject, so I need probably f8 would be good. So I would test it though. So if you go, you take a picture, you blow it up and look at the background, or to say the background, you don't care about the gray so much, but the back of the calla lily or whatever it is, and then look at the foreground or the first part and say, is it in focus? If it's not, then you got to extend your depth of field a little bit more, say f10 or f11 if you have to. Okay, so my shutter speed's at 200th of a second. That's my sync speed here. I'm in my house actually, so I'm not in a studio, which I guess my house sometimes can I can use as a studio. If you're like me, you've probably been doing that for years. So I don't need the ambient light at all to play into this. So I have 200th of a second. I have right now I think it's f8. Maybe it's f9. I can't remember exactly what I said at f8. And then I have my ISO. I adjusted just slightly because I could increase my strobe output, but I just kind of spun my ISO to 200 or something. So normally I start at 100, okay? So let's grab a calla lily and let's take a look. I'll tell you guys where I get my flowers at AJ's here in Phoenix. Actually, AJ's is a division of Bash's or something like that. They have a really good selection of flowers. Wherever you live, you can try to find a place where you can go. You can go to a florist and maybe you pay a little bit more. But AJ's has a great selection. Obviously, I'm storing it in water so that I can keep it as long as I can and keep shooting. I went and picked these calla lilies, and here's what I like about a calla lily, is look at the value. You got a darker stem, tones coming up, highlights, curves. You got the little teeny curlicue here. There's probably some things you could do, maybe shooting down or something, but I love the wraparound feel of this. It's just absolutely beautiful, and I love the white. The white, it gives my final a punch, right? There's a highlight punch in the whites that I want to retain, and then of course the values of the stock and everything else, and then of course we'll add the texture. That's why I like calla lily. It just makes a great subject matter to exercise getting your tonal range and all the things that you want to get in a print. So we're going to lay this down. Let me get I have my little piece of roll of tape to be able to sort of keep it from rolling. And I'm going to lay it down here. Okay, let's see. Well, we'll start right here. I'm going to start right here. And I think I did one test of this already, just because that's a smart thing to do before I go. And then I need my glasses because I can't see a thing. So we're going to make sure that, let's turn my camera on, and I'm going to make sure, yes, I did clear the card. It's all ready to go, a new clean card. Now I've got my autofocus set so that all I have to do on my camera is just tap. I tap and it goes straight into focus. And that's something that, I don't know if your camera does that, but you want to make sure you're in focus. So now, I'm a little too far. I can slide the calla lily like this, but in some cases, I'll slide the whole foam core and everything. So I got my preview here, and I'm looking at it. I've got gray around top and bottom. I can add gray more when I go into Photoshop. So right now it's a very narrow rectangular. It's the standard size of a 35 millimeter type framing. But I'm going to add, if I want to go square, I'm going to add the gray. I don't need to add the gray here. I'm going to add it later, because if I go and back up and then crop in to make it square, I'm losing lots of megapixels. Whoops. Don't step on your set. It's kind of hard to lean over here a little bit, but anyways, and oh, by the way, I could do this, you know, oh, isn't that nice? I can just look at it that way, and I can spin it. I think I can spin it. Oh, it spins this way. Well, either way, oh, there it goes. Let's see if we can tap this. You guys can see. Oh, it's upside down. But at any rate, articulating screens are great. Okay, but so I'm looking at it and I'm going, you know what? Actually, that looks pretty good. And I've got my softbox off the ground a little bit. And so the reason why, if I put the softbox all the way to the ground, it's going to light the gray paper a little bit too much. And then you're going to have this hot spot, and then it's going to go, you know, across the surface of the gray. So when you lift it up, it adds a little bit of value, darken, and then it lights the calla lily, and then it's a little more even. In Photoshop, you can fix that if you have to. But I just walked the light stand up a little bit there to get that, and I already did that, so I ran a test. So let's take a look here. We're going to fire one off. I focus and fire. There we go. All right. Again, let me just make sure I get you guys the information here. We are at I'm at F11. I didn't realize I was at F11. So here's what I would do. Because if you've been studying photography, if you're listening to my Joel Grimes Academy, and we talk about the craft and all things, I talk about lenses and I talk about optics, and I always say that you want to, if you can, you want to shoot at the sweet spot of your lens, okay? And that's around f8, I mentioned earlier. It depends on the lens, aperture of the lens. So on some cameras, a lot of times I shoot at f7.1, but it might even be 5.6, could be the sweet spot of the lens. But it's in that mid zone there. If you open it up to really wide, it's aberration. You get aberration. And if you go really close down to, like, say, f22, in this case, I might have an f32 on that lens, you get diffraction. So you want to keep it as close to that sweet spot as possible. If you need that depth of field, like I said before, then you're going to have to stop down. In this case, I don't think I do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to, I'm not going to adjust my strobe, but I'm going to increase my ISO, okay? So in this case, I just can hold this down right here, and I have a ring. Whoops, I didn't want to hit the wrong ring. And I'm going to go up to, let's say, 400, okay? And then I'm going to take my f-stop. Let's go to info here. F-stop, we're going to take down back to f8, okay? And I'm going to fire another one, and let's see if that gives me the exposure I need. I'm a little overexposed now, so I went too far on my ISO. So let's go down to, I think I had it at 100, so let's go back to 200, or close to 200, fire one off. And that looks pretty good. So I hope you understand what I just did there. So I opened up the aperture, which lets more light in, and then I went and adjusted the ISO to balance the exposure. You could do your strobe. And people ask me this a lot. They go, how come you don't really adjust your strobe that often? Well, okay, so, that for one, I can do it on my camera here, right? So I don't have to, but what I want to do is I want to minimize the variables that I have to deal with, right? So ISO, especially in these new cameras, if I go from 100 to 400, it's not going to give me that really any noticeable grain or noise. So that's an easy way to do it. Now, if you get used to and you say, I always want to adjust the strobe output, that's good. If you have a speed light, which I have used quite a bit, it's a little harder to get the speed lights up in power. Like even the controller on the Canon, I'm like, it's like, oh, ISO, click, spin, right? So that's why I'm doing that, and I'm getting the exposure that I need. So let's take a look at that last frame. That looks pretty amazing. So I've got a pretty close-up view here, and I don't know if I can get this to spin around for you guys. I'll show it to you, and that's upside down. I'm pretty close to that, which is about what I like. I want to see that calla lily. But let's say I go, and I'm going to zoom this. I'm going to zoom this out so it's a little bit more. Just tap focus. And it gives me a little more stock and a little less zoomed in. So let's just try that as an option. So since it's all set up here, my lighting's not going to change. We're going to focus, fire. So that gives me one that's a little bit backed off. I might try even going further. Let's see, this is my 7200. Let's see how I can go. Oh, I got plenty, So in that case, let's go really backed off here. And then I'm gonna slide this up just a little bit. Let's try the whole thing here. Whoa, I went a little too far. Okay, so let's frame it. Oh, beautiful. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. We'll fire that off. Why am I counting? I don't know. I get to count with subjects all the time. All right, so I'm sure some of you got a kick out of that one. Give myself options because I'm all set up. Let's say tomorrow that calla lily, it's lost its glory, and you're like, gosh, I wish I'd have done a little bit backed up or a little bit closer. So that's why I always try to get variables. So let's add another calla lily in there. Let's see, this one's got a curve to it. So now I'm gonna work the calla lilies together. And I love this because I like to crisscross them. And let's see what this does right there. I'm gonna shift this a little bit. Okay. So let's take a look at my live view. And need to zoom out a little bit more right there. Actually, now I'm moving my camera. Sorry, it is on a swivel here, but I didn't want to really do that. Okay, so fire one off. Oh, that looks gorgeous, and I'll tell you why. And I'm going to play with it a little bit more. So this is a really good lesson for you guys. I'm a little off. I got to center, but you look at the stalk, right? So you have the calla lilies, and then you have the stalk coming down. What do you do with that stalk? That design element that you're using right there is so important. So don't just go, oh, I got the 2 calla lilies perfectly. You got to look at the design element of the stalks crossing, all that. That's important. So this is why I always say that when I have parents come up to me when I'm speaking at an event or something, they'll say, hey, my daughter wants to be a photographer. Should I send her to college and get a degree in photography? And I say, well, if she really wants to be a photographer, why don't you get her a degree in design, graphic design, and then go on to photography? Because photography actually is easy. The techniques of f-stops, shutter speeds, all that. It's the design part of knowing what makes a great photograph is really where I think most photographers fail, including me. I'm always trying to work on the design side, get the elements just perfect. And so relationships of two things and how it works, get a fork and a spoon, put it down together. There's a relationship that you can work that's going to be better than, say, one option versus another option. Look at those things. That's important. So I'm going to look at the crisscross here. Let's see if I can get a little bit better. I'm a little off on my whole set. So I want to spin this down this way. Okay, let's see if that helps. Oh, I'm not on live view here. And tap. Oh, yes, much better. Now I'm a little bit, let's see, I'm a little bit too tight. So that makes it a little bit better there. This looks, let me get my info off. I got too much garbage on there. Okay, wow. That looks incredible. Okay, we're gonna fire one. I gotta make sure it's focused. And we fire. And then I'm gonna double tap. And I'm gonna zoom in here and move around. And then if I scroll in, I can really get to like 10x. And just make sure that I am in focus and I've got my depth of field covering everything, which it has plenty of depth of field. As I said before, and this is in a scenario where you can go back to if you had to. So if I take my card or my computer, but when I do portraits of people and I'm at a set and I go, this is the most amazing picture. Double check everything because you can't often go back. You got an old cowboy on a fence in the middle of Montana, and then you go back to your hotel and you go, he's out of focus, or something that happens. And that's happened to me many times. And you literally want to scream. And it's just part of the whole process of being a photographer. But minimize that. And of course, as a commercial advertising photographer, I've learned my lesson many times on making sure I get the shot. So, all right, so we got the crisscross here. I got gray, enough gray. I think I can build what I want out of that. That actually is pretty amazing. Okay, I like that. Let's see what would happen if I add one more. So we have 3 calla lilies in one shot. All right, so I'm just playing here. I think I've got my shot on either side. Let's see, do I want to go this way? So that opens it up that way. Nope, can't do that. All right, we're going to try 3 calla lilies stacked on top of each other. Now I need my little gaffer's tape to hold it up. So let's try 3. And I'm just playing here. Okay, so I definitely don't have enough room now. So I got to go to 70 millimeter. And I think I have to swing it back here. So I'm getting a little tight. In this case, I might have to go to my 72 or my 24 to 70, but I'm just going to cheat a little bit. Oh, you know what I can do also? I can come up. Let's come up on my middle part here. That's going to change my angle just a little bit. Let's lock it in position. Turn on my live view again. And I got a little bit extra, but not enough. So let me just do this. We're going to slide this one in just a little bit, and let's see here. That's kind of fallen. I got to make sure it doesn't rotate. Okay, and I don't think I want them touching, like the white leaves or the flowers touching. Okay, let's take a look at that. I can still feel like I need about just a fraction. Let's go up a little higher here. Okay, hit live view. Now my articulating screen helps a lot for me to see. It's tight. What I don't like in this one, I'm going to fire one off here, and I'm going to show you what I don't like. Okay, make sure I'm focused. What I don't like is the stalks are kind of crisscrossing, but they're not the way I want. So I'm going to get one other. Let's grab this cup here just to hold the bottom part, and let's see what we can do here. I want the stalk to come a little tighter there. Actually, it's holding up now. But I gotta get on my knee here, and I'm gonna adjust this just a fraction. So it wants to slide every time. So let's see if that'll hold. And then this one we want. Okay, they're a little tight. Let's see what it looks like. Whoops, and I kicked the thing. Yep, that one's a little tight. Okay. So it wants to slide, and I don't know how much room I have for my frame here. So let's see if that'll hold it in position. That might show up in the shot. No, we're still good. All right, so still just a little tight now. I want to see if I can go do this, and that gets me there, but it's still barely enough gray. Well, this is the challenge. I can switch cameras here or switch lenses, but let me fire one off and show you. I love the stalks here. See if I can get this to go. The crisscross of the stalks looks a little bit better. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch lenses, and I'm gonna do it as quick as I can here. So I gotta turn my camera off. Whew, that's getting up there. All right, so one thing I didn't say earlier is that you want to keep your camera as level as possible, right? You can kind of eyeball it because I've got a straight line there. Well, I got my thermostat there, which has a horizontal, but basically also your camera has, most of them now today, have a leveling system in it. So you want to keep your camera as level as possible. It's not like you're photographing a piece of flat artwork where if you're just a little tweaked, it's going to show up. But I would say that you want to do the due diligence of keeping your camera level. All right, so here we go. So now we're going to go back down. Whoa, wrong lens here. Okay. All right, let's focus. All right, so I got plenty of gray now, and a cup is showing up. So I'm going to have to back that cup up just a little bit there. Let's pop this thing back up here again. And I think I'm liking everything in there, so we're going to hit, focus. Double check our focus and fire. And maybe I think the stocks moved a little bit. For some reason now I'm not as happy with this crisscross. So let's try. I'm going to switch this one out like this, put this one on top. Let's just see what happens if I do that. And maybe even put this one up like this. Just a little bit. And I might have gone too far on the left on that one. Again, this is subjective, so it's like, you know, you may come up with a better way of doing this, but maybe that's the way right there. Let's try that one. That works pretty good. All right, the only thing I'm going to think now is I'm going to take the middle calla lily and push it toward the top just a little bit. So it feels like it's in the center and coming out a little bit more. Just try that. So kind of, you always talk about triangles. Oh, much better. Okay, so that actually made the difference right there. Maybe not as happy with the stock down here. So I'm going to cross this one over like this. And then keep this one under like that. See if I can balance all this stuff. You can always use maybe some pens to stick them together. One last thing. I'm just going to shift that if it'll hold. Nope, it won't hold. Let me get my cup to hold it in there. Like it. I like it. Okay, take one frame, double check my focus one more time. That looks good. Last one, we'll get one extra frame just for good measure. Beautiful. All right. Whew. Okay. All right. Now that we've done probably the simplest approach to what I would call a beautiful still life, let's go into Photoshop, and I'm going to show you how I retouch this stuff to get my final end result. And so, and then we're going to build from here to maybe some different, I'm going to probably use this same approach. We'll do some sunflowers or do a few things. I don't have to repeat this every single time, the whole length of this, but I want to show you as many different options as possible, because you may not be interested in flowers, but you love, like I just talked to my brother, who this is interesting. Yesterday when I was getting my flowers, he called and he just happened to send over a picture of some old boxing gloves that he had, a neighbor had, and he shot them actually kind of like with the American flag behind it. And he's a retired fireman, and so he's just having fun with the camera, like you maybe. And I said, oh, I'm doing some still lifes. And so I sent him over a really old tutorial that I had as a start to finish, as to give him some ideas of how to lay something on the ground. I said, lay it on, put it on the ground, and then shoot. He's got some strobes and stuff. Shoot it cross light. And so, but we were talking on the phone, and I said, why don't you take the sport idea and the old sport, go find some old golf clubs, old fly rod, old, I don't know, maybe a pair of soccer shoes or something, and go to antique stores and find and build a series of really cool old looking sports stuff as your theme. So pick an idea of something that works in a theme, sort of like a pattern of things that you can put together and work as, sort of like maybe on one wall, what do they call that? Triptych or something like that. Maybe in threes. At any rate, you can see where I'm going. There's no end to what you could do. So let's go to retouch and make the magic happen on the second half.